the hunters of one another, I saw a strange and disturbing sight. Before me stood a large crowd of people armed with modern weapons. They carried sophisticated rifles, pistols, and other instruments of destruction. Yet they were not soldiers. They did not belong to any military force, nor were they defending their nation from an external enemy. What shocked me most was their purpose. They carried weapons with the intention of killing one another. As I observed them, I noticed fear in their eyes. Everyone looked suspiciously at the next person. Neighbors feared neighbors. Friends feared friends. Brothers feared brothers. No one trusted anyone. The atmosphere was filled with tension. Suddenly, I heard a voice among them saying, "The first person to kill will be the first person to live." Immediately, the crowd embraced the message. They became convinced that their survival depended upon eliminating one another. The stronger sought opportunities to destroy the weaker. The wealthy sought ways to suppress the poor. The poor envied the wealthy. Communities turned against communities. No one stopped to question the message. No one asked whether it was true. They simply accepted it and began living by it. The more I watched, the more troubled I became. These people were behaving as though they were prey being hunted, yet everyone was also trying to become a hunter. Fear drove their actions. Suspicion controlled their decisions. Survival became their highest law. Then I noticed something even stranger. The weapons were not their greatest danger. The real danger was the invisible force influencing their minds. It was as though a dark spell had been cast over them. Their thinking had become distorted. They viewed every person as an enemy and every relationship as a competition. Instead of cooperating, they competed. Instead of loving, they hated. Instead of building, they destroyed. Instead of protecting life, they sought to preserve themselves at the expense of others. As I reflected on what I was seeing, one word came strongly into my heart: bewitchment. Not necessarily the bewitchment of charms and occult rituals alone, but a deeper spiritual deception that blinds people to truth and causes them to act against their own welfare. The people had become captives of a false belief. They believed that another person's success threatened their own survival. They believed that their neighbor's progress was their loss. They believed that the destruction of others would guarantee their own security. Yet the more they embraced this mentality, the more miserable their society became. Then my thoughts turned toward contemporary Nigerian society. I began to see similarities. Across the nation, many people are no longer carrying physical weapons, yet they often carry invisible weapons of envy, hatred, bitterness, selfish ambition, tribalism, corruption, and greed. In politics, individuals sometimes seek power not to serve others but to eliminate rivals and secure personal gain. In workplaces, colleagues may undermine one another rather than work together for collective success. In business, some engage in dishonest practices that harm others in pursuit of profit. In religious circles, competition sometimes replaces genuine service to God. Ministries may view one another as rivals rather than partners in advancing God's kingdom. Among youths, social media has intensified unhealthy comparisons. Many people measure their worth against others and secretly rejoice when those they envy experience failure. Communities that should be united often become divided by ethnicity, religion, political affiliation, or economic status. The result is a society where trust diminishes and suspicion increases. This resembles the vision before me. People begin to see one another as threats rather than blessings. They adopt a survival mentality. They believe that for them to rise, someone else must fall. Yet Scripture teaches a different reality. God created humanity to live in community, not in hostility. The command to love one's neighbor contradicts the philosophy that the first to destroy others is the first to survive. The story of Cain and Abel illustrates how jealousy can lead to destruction. Cain viewed his brother as a competitor rather than a companion. His envy eventually produced violence and tragedy. Likewise, whenever individuals or communities see one another primarily as rivals, social harmony is replaced by conflict. The spiritual roots of many societal problems often lie in distorted thinking. A bewitched mind is not merely one controlled by supernatural forces, it is a mind that has accepted lies as truth. When greed is accepted as wisdom, society suffers. When corruption is accepted as normal, society suffers. When hatred is accepted as strength, society suffers. When selfish ambition is accepted as success, society suffers. As I continued watching the armed crowd, I realized that none of them were truly safe. Their determination to destroy one another had created a cycle that threatened everyone. The hunters had become the hunted. The predators had become prey. The fear they sought to escape had become the very thing controlling them. Then I understood the lesson of the vision. A society cannot flourish when its members see one another as enemies. Communities prosper when people recognize their interdependence and shared humanity. Nations advance when cooperation replaces suspicion. Churches grow when love overcomes rivalry. Families remain strong when trust defeats fear. The solution to bewitchment is not merely the removal of weapons but the renewal of minds. People must reject the lie that another person's progress is their downfall. They must embrace the truth that collective advancement benefits everyone. As the vision faded, I was left with a profound conclusion: the greatest danger facing a people is not always the weapon in their hands but the deception in their minds. For when people are bewitched into seeing one another as prey, they become trapped in a cycle of fear, conflict, and destruction. But when their minds are renewed by truth, they discover that their neighbor is not their enemy but their fellow traveler in the journey of life. And so I concluded that what I saw was a system of bewitchment, a condition in which people are deceived into fighting one another while the true enemy remains unseen.